Joining me today on Plus Talk to talk all about HIV stigma online, especially in the world of social media, I have Jessica Glaspie, who's joining us remotely, and the gorgeous Salina EsTitties in studio.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Happy to have you and all of your hair in here.
All of it.
As Jessica, we're happy we're happy to have you remote. This is an important topic. HIV stigma, obviously. Jessica, I know you've been living with HIV for 15 years, and Salina, you are very much an ally, especially online and in the digital space of, fighting stigma and being a great ally to those of us living with HIV. I'm curious, Jessica, what was it? Why did you decide to open up about your HIV status and be vocal about living with HIV on social media?
Because I did not see anyone that looked like me that lived my lifestyle. It was very hard to find those people. I tested positive at 22. So being 22, heterosexual, cisgender, all the things, I was living in the Atlanta area and there was just nobody. Everybody that I kind of came across were part of the LGBTQ community, at least everybody that was vocal, that was public about their status. And so it made it really hard to live with when I felt like I was the only Black woman in the world that had HIV. So it was very isolating. It took a really big toll on mental health. And so part of me wanting to share my story and kind of, uh, put myself out there is because I knew I couldn't be the only person. I knew there had to be someone else that was like me, that was probably looking for the same thing that I was looking for. So I kind of stepped out on faith and I disclosed my status publicly via poetry on Facebook on December 21st of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
2015, actually. So almost 10 years.
How do you think HIV stigma has evolved in the digital world since you first came and spoke about it, Jessica? And I guess that first part is for you, and then it's the second part. I guess is for both of you. What do you think are some of the most damaging myths that are still out there about HIV? But I'll let you address the first part, Jessica.
I think that because of the way that news travels on social media, it's easy to grab one thing and hold on to it, right? And share it and share it and share it again, even though it may be misinformation and even though it might not be true. So I've had a lot of instances where someone said HIV is AIDS. That is one of the largest stigmas of living with HIV is that HIV is AIDS.
Mhm.
HIV is not AIDS, right? HIV can cause AIDS if you don't take care of yourself, but HIV and AIDS cannot be used interchangeably. And so even when I do things like this podcast, I've had people say, "How did you feel after your AIDS diagnosis?" And I have to correct them and say, "Actually, I didn't get an AIDS diagnosis. I was diagnosed with HIV."
Yeah.
And so, news like that travels very fast on social media. And it's hard to get a handle on it because the right information, the true information, the needed information doesn't travel as fast. It's almost like people don't really want to share the real fact. They just want to share what seems like it's going to catch clicks or likes or, all the things, even though it's not true.
Yeah, it's the sensationalism of it, right? I mean, look, you were on season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race. You're a big part of the GLAAD family as their new weather watch girl.
Mhm.
But you know about stigma, whether it's HIV or not, and people just being vicious. And that, as Jessica would say, that misinformation, that we're going to say this, and the more sensational, I guess, that piece of information is, the more it takes fire.
Like Twitter acts as such a rabbit hole of destruction and chaos. Like literally, being on Drag Race, the comments from the fans are insane. And I would see one comment, and it would like throw off my entire attitude, right? But I'm like, this is literally a 12-year-old living at home in their mom's basement in Ohio who has never even stepped outside the house before. You know what I mean? Like you have to consider the
Yeah.
source. And I know, especially like scrolling on TikTok, there's a lot of like hysteria and like dire, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, everything seems so like intense. And I'm like, I'm listening to this girl tell me that X, Y, and Z, but I'm like, who is this girl? You know what I mean? But that's a lot of people's source of information, news, and they rely on Twitter or X, for that information, and it's not necessarily real or true or factual,
So, so give me an example of something that, and it may even be, I would imagine, because sadly, you work in the world of drag, you are part of the queer community. Unfortunately, a lot of people still think that HIV is just something that happens to us queer people. Jessica, you are a case in point that it affects everybody. But do you have an example of like something that was really shockingly horrible and hurtful? And how did you deal with that and overcome it?
Yeah, I think it was recognizing that, like, again, considering the source, right? Like, who is saying this, and like not giving it so much depth and weight when it's like hate comments or something like that. It's um, I have to live with me at the end of the day, and allowing others to dictate how I should feel about myself or who I am. And they don't know who I am. They don't know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of it, I was in such a deep spiral for a long time with all the hate from comments and social media that it took a while for me to step back and be like, oh, it's not a thing, you know what I mean? Like, I remember there was, something that happened. I tweeted something about Taylor Swift once, and the Taylor Swift fans came for me crazy, and I was like, "Oh my god," like, I'm, like, getting attacked, I'm getting death threats, and then someone posted a photo, said something like, "You better watch your mouth or else," and I was like, and then someone in my defense was like, "Or else what?" And the person posted a photo of Pulse nightclub, like, and I was like, "Oh, this is so
Oh,
ridiculous and so wrong and so, like, horrible." Like, I was like, "Okay, this is
So
ridiculous."
how do you get up from that? How do you get over that? Because as much as we go, well, you just got to let it roll off. It hurts.
Especially if it's something as personal as a HIV diagnosis. That's very personal to someone and their experience, and to see anything about that online, I'm sure, can be so it doesn't help with the shame that comes already with that, right? So, I think it's understanding that, like, we can't allow those to dictate who we are, or take it's so hard, but it's literally putting the phone down and being like, "This isn't real." Like, social media, a lot of that stuff's not real, you know what I mean? And it's so hard to not feed into it,
for
but
sure.
it's a journey to understand, like, okay, this is all BS.
Yeah. What about for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about for you, Jessica? What was something that has come up on your social media that really hit you personally? And how did you get over it and deal with it?
So, um, to Selena's point, everybody is under the impression, I should say everybody, a lot of people are under the impression that this only happens in the gay community, right? And so I people could not believe the person that gave me HIV was born with HIV. I mean, no matter how many times I said it, no matter how many times I shared my story, they were convinced that at one point in his life he was gay.
Oh, trust me. I
Like
know.
there
I
was
know a few people out there who perpetuate that very dangerous myth as well.
It's insane, and it makes it very hard for people like me to live a day-to-day life with HIV, right? And so I can tell you one example. I did a town hall. I live in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I did a town hall for a local radio station. I went to a club after the town hall to have some drinks, went out with some friends. Someone that happened to be at the town hall was at the club. I was talking to the security guard. The security guard was interested in my story. I gave him a book. I carry books with me just, for GP. He bought the book to support me, and took the book to his car. Well, someone that was at the town hall pulled him to the side in the middle of our conversation to tell him that I had spoken earlier that day and that I was HIV
Hmm.
positive. And so I was taken aback, number one, because this person was at the town hall, which was all about HIV stigma. So why on earth? Number two, you don't know what my intentions were with this person. I don't need to disclose my status within 10 seconds of having a conversation with someone. And if I did intend on sleeping with this person, that is ultimately his decision and mine. My decision to disclose, should that go that far, his responsibility to ask
Mhm.
and to know my status
Right.
as well, right? And so one thing that I struggle with is that a lot of times people are not taking responsibility for themselves. Now, I could be angry and say, this person that was born with HIV knowingly exposed me to HIV and didn't tell me. Wrong on all kinds of levels, right? But did I have a responsibility in knowing what his status was before we had unprotected sex? Yes, I did. Did we have the conversation? Yes. We were in a relationship. I trusted what he said. Did I look for paperwork at 22 years old? No, I did
Mhm.
not. You know, if you're caught up in the moment and you're in the heat of the moment, are you pausing and like, wait, have you been tested for HIV? Have you, those are conversations that you have to have with people before you get there. And if you decide to have a one night stand or to sleep with someone and never speak to them again, then make sure you're protecting yourself or that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And so, the stigma around HIV is that it's promiscuity.
Mhm.
It's not always the case that people are out here having sex with having a bunch of partners.
Mm.
That's not always the
Or
case.
that we're
My
all
case,
IV drug users.
exactly. I went to a conference. It was an all women's conference. They were all HIV positive and 120 something attendees. There was only 4 people there my age. The people that were my age had similar transmission, stories. They contracted it from unprotected sex. The older women that were there that contracted HIV in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of their stories were from IV drug use, right? So you have to take the time to educate yourself
Mhm.
on the generations, on the culture, on how far HIV and AIDS has come since then, because everybody's story looks different,
It's
you know?
you're making such an important and good point. I'm curious on sort of back on more on the social media side of things, and this is a question for both of you. I'll address it to you first, Selena. What do you think is more important? Is it important to sort of respond to it head on, or let it slide?
Hmm.
How do you strike that right balance between kind of educating others and also protecting your peace?
Yeah, 1000%. I think that the key is to not engage with any of that online, any of that nonsense. But like Jessica, being so brave and like being a pillar and of visibility and representation is so important because I think the real issue here is miseducation and lack of education about HIV/AIDS, right? Like I know when I was growing up, the only example I had was the movie Rent and then Angel dying from AIDS in Rent and then everyone dying of AIDS in that movie. And I remember my mom, when I watched it
Yes.
with my mom, who doesn't know anything about HIV or AIDS, and she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, pobrecito, the little gay boy," and this was before I came out. So I already like, there's fear and judgment and shame coming from that. And and it's like I'm so grateful for the queer community and like spaces like the LGBT Center, AIDS Health Foundation, Men's Health Foundation, like that have so much access and resources for our queer community and for straight allies as well. Like those resources are available to them as well. And I think as a queer community, we are a lot more educated in the field of HIV/AIDS. But again, it's a bigger stigma, I think, especially in a POC straight communities who don't have any conversation at all, who still think it's like a gay disease. And so when it
Yes.
comes to social media and misinformation or shaming online, it's like I don't think engaging with it is the answer. I think being a pillar of representation of real facts and education is what's important, just like Jessica's doing.
And I get the sense that that's exactly how Jessica handles it. I'm curious, Jessica, for a lot of people, especially those of us living with HIV, social media can be a sort of a tool for connection too. Look, I built a whole platform. Plus Life Media is a space for people living with HIV to connect and see and share stories of, with each other. It can also be a source of mass anxiety, I think. What do you think, Jessica, we can do to make online spaces more supportive and less harmful for those who are trying to navigate HIV related stigma?
Honestly, I think advocacy has been the best solution in my experience. It matters when you see you and other people.
Mm,
It matters when you're coming with grace and not with malice, right?
mhm,
People don't want to. So as a I, and I placed this on my YouTube not long ago, but I straddle the fence on being a victim and being an advocate, right? And there are things that are very much so frowned upon in the advocacy world, like outing someone, outing their HIV status, right? So the person that gave me HIV was born with HIV, and a lot of times on social media, that's all they want to know. They could care less about the story.
Mhm.
They could care less about how I contracted HIV. They want someone to blame. They want someone to point the finger at. And I don't give that to them. Just because it takes away from the message, number one. Number two, are you going to go find him and just make sure that you don't have unprotected sex with this one person instead of making sure that you're protecting yourself from anybody that you're having sex with? Right? Or sharing needles or any of the things that could cause you to contract HIV. You can't just be mindful of one person. You have to be mindful of your lifestyle. And so, social media, yes, is mass anxiety. I always say if I didn't have a platform, I would not have social media.
I
Um,
relate.
it's it's a it's a lot.
Mhm.
It can be a lot. It can be a daunting place. But to your point, Carl, it could also be a place where you find support. It could also be a place where you find the information that you're truly looking for. And I think that the reason that a lot of people are attracted to my story and a lot of people reach out to me is because of the way that I handle my situation. I think that matters. I think that matters to a lot of people. I do know an advocate that has outed their partner and rejected it, and so just it's not the way that it's not the route I decided to go.
I sort of want to ask you what role, Selena, do you think influencers and public figures have in challenging HIV stigma on social media?
Mhm. Well, I know a lot of people don't want to be associated, right? Because it comes with so much stigma. People don't want to even speak on it because then it places questions or ideas about that.
I'm sure you've had that yourself.
Well, I think representation matters so much, right? And I feel like if there's any way that I can contribute and help and be a resource to the people who are watching my stories, who are following me on Instagram and TikTok, it's like I post when I'm getting tested. I'm posting how I keep myself healthy, how I look after my sexual well-being because I am such a whore. Like, yeah, I love sexual activities.
Are you?
I am a homosexual underneath this wig and these titties, baby. So I like to engage. And I know that's very common for a lot of gay guys, and everyone loves sex, for the most part,
We're
but
human beings.
it's not something that people like to talk about. I'm
Yes,
very vocal about my behaviors, but I'm also very vocal about how I take care of myself after, during, and when I'm in those behaviors as well. And I think that's important for people to hear that I'm taking care of myself.
Well, yeah, exactly. By leading by example, right? You're helping fight the stigma by showing that there's no shame A in having sex, and then B going and getting tested. And God forbid if you pick up an STI or you turn out to acquire HIV, there's no shame in that either. You get on treatment, you get it sorted, and on you go, get with your life, right? Just
exactly. Because the same people that are saying Selena got HIV because she's promiscuous don't believe that I got HIV and I was in a monogamous relationship with one person.
Mhm.
So you can't paint your own picture and run with it. You have to go with the fact. And the fact is, if you engage in activity that can cause you to contract HIV, it does not discriminate. It's not going to miss you for any reason. It doesn't matter if you have $1 in your account or if
Mhm.
you have $1 billion in your account.
Mhm.
You know, like let's look at Charlie Sheen,
Mhm.
right?
yep.
That was a big deal for just a little while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just a little while.
I guess I want to sort of wrap up. This has been a really good conversation. Jessica, what would be if you had one really solid piece of advice to offer somebody out there who is living with HIV, maybe in the shadows, but is thinking about, sharing their story because they think it might help them in their journey? What would be the one bit of advice you would give them in relation to dealing with HIV stigma when it comes at you on social media?
I would say you have to have patience and you have to give people grace, even if you feel like they don't deserve it. Because the minute that you crack and the minute that you snap,
Mhm.
that is all that people are going to share.
Mhm. And that's what
They're going to
people
share
want.
that one time
Mhm.
that you lost control
Mhm.
instead of all the other times that you kept your cool, that you shared your story, that you tried to educate. And it's not for the weak. Sharing
Mhm.
your story or disclosing your status on a public platform, it takes a lot and it seems easy, but it's not, and once you put that out on the internet, there's no taking it back,
Don't we know
right?
that?
Okay.
Once it's out online, you know a thing or two about that, I'm sure, Salina.
There's
Yes,
no
ma'am.
Yeah, there's no take. So I would just say that if that is something that they're wanting to do to disclose publicly because they feel like it would bring more support, I 1,000% support that idea. That was how I got the support that I got was disclosing my status, and then people came to me and said, "Have you heard of this organization?" It's how I got in case management with the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. That was my first experience with that. And so, I definitely encourage it. And honestly, I thought I was going to get a bunch of negative feedback, but I didn't. I didn't get any negative feedback at all until I did the Revolt TV interview. They ate me alive
Mhm.
in the comments.
Yeah, well,
And that was my first.
it's those comments. But I tell you what, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you both making the time. Jessica Glaspie joining us remotely, and of course the beautiful Salina EsTitties. Thank you both for having this chat. It's really important stuff.
Yeah, 1000%. And like I think
Agreed.
at the end of the day, having compassion online and like I have something that I've been working on is like conscious posting. Like, do I need to tweet this? Do I need to post this? Am I adding love into the world by saying what I want to say, or am I just adding more bullshit? You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah,
people are gonna be bullshitting all the time, every day. They don't even think when they're posting. They just type whatever and it's nothing to them, but it can really affect someone's livelihood and mental health on the other
agree.
side. So I think being conscious and having compassion for people and, being a little more conscious about what you're posting is important.
Such great advice. That is going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk. What did you think? Leave a comment below. Let us know.
Not a nasty one.
Not a nasty one. Exactly. You can like, follow, and share across all your favorite social platforms at Plus Life Media, and the website is pluslifemedia.com. Until next time, I want to thank my guests, Jessica Glaspie, joining us, the beautiful Salina EsTitties, and you for tuning in. Remember, if you're undetectable, you're untransmittable, so go get tested and have a good day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.